Hello, Skiba News Nation family. My name is Nathaniel Klein. I've been a chiropractor for 9 years. About halfway through practice in my mid-20s, I was in pain all the time. I was sick all the time. I wanted to quit my job, and I started studying biomechanics. I heard a parable once growing up in church about this prophet and how he went to this man. He said, I have a word from the Lord. He says, go to this boulder at this edge of the cliff. I want you to push on this boulder as hard as you can. Do it every day. The prophet left. The man was obedient. He was faithful. Went to the boulder. For a year, he went and pushed on that boulder as hard as he could, thinking that he had to push it down the cliff. Finally, the prophet comes back after a year. The man's like, I failed. I couldn't do it. Couldn't move that boulder 1 inch. Couldn't even shake it. The prophet's like, the Lord never said, move the boulder. He just said, push on it. Now you're stronger. You can go do his will. Maybe you feel like the Hebrews in Egypt, enslaved. The workload is getting harder and harder and harder. But God used that time to strengthen them, to prepare them for the wilderness, prepare them for the Exodus. Jeremiah and Jake are warning us, preparing our minds for what's to come. And we thought it was important that you take steps to work on your health too. Because it's not just about you, it's about those around you. You want to be strong and stable, mentally, spiritually, physically, to help others through this time. In my 20s, I was in so much pain and so sick all the time that I was just searching for other avenues to heal my body. I was looking into herbal therapy, phytotherapy, and as a side project, I started doing something called foundation training, which was movement-based. And I got so much relief from that and so much healing from the inside of my body and all my organ systems that I was so captivated by the study of movement, which we call biomechanics. So join me, if you will. Find a nice flat piece of ground here. I'm just going to come down into a nice squat. It's okay, let everything tuck. This is a movement we miss out on in our culture. God created us to move a certain way, designed our bodies specifically for an environment that was uneven. We walk with shoes that compress our feet. We walk on flat, hard surfaces all the time. We never activate our feet, the arches of our feet. And that causes an issue up the chain into our nervous system. Chiropractors understand this a lot. It's one of their pitches, is we take stress off the nervous system. Well, how we move can take stress off the nervous system, and that's healing. There's 3 different causes of stress that cause all disease. It's either emotional, it's either traumatic, or they're toxins. So food is important. I didn't give up herbal therapy because I didn't believe in it. I just found so much depth, so much simplicity in changing how I was moving and how I was approaching movement to heal my body versus spending tons of money on either it's drugs, right? Or it's these expensive herbs. You're still wasting resources to try to fix a symptom instead of addressing the cause, which might be, in fact, I'm not promising you this, how you're moving, how you're breathing, which is causing stress. Trauma, one of our T's of stress, trauma or microtrauma, trauma over time. So if we're always bending at our backs, lifting from our low backs, that is trauma over time, microtrauma. It's creating little tears, it's creating muscular imbalance, it's creating stress on the joints, degeneration, but also if we're affecting the spine, and this is the only reason chiropractors care about your spine, is because it encases your nervous system. All your nerve roots come out of your spinal cord and your brain stem, which move and animate the body, but also send signals to your organs and tell them how to function. We're healing our bodies, because at the end of the day, mobility is really what matters. Our ability to move, go from place to place is what's going to be really important in this wilderness time. If we really have no way of buying and selling anymore, we're going to need to move. Our camps are just going to be like those in the wilderness, moving around. So we need to be strong. We can't just get strong on that day. We got to be ready for it. So I want to give you a bunch of ideas. Today it was the squat. And maybe you're like, Dr. Klein, this hurts. I don't want you to push into pain, right? Even me, I'm getting a little tired. Other cultures, they're hanging down here all day, right? They can play a game of chess. Not me. 5 minutes is my max. working on that every day. We're trying to get a little better. You're not competing with me, you're competing with yourself. Work on adding a squat. If it hurts your knees, I'm going to give you some tips. Let me bring in a guest to help me do that. So next, we got a special guest here to teach us how to lift something with a squat, because this position that I'm currently in, you can see how my pelvis is tucked, my lower spine is flat, and I never want to lift from this position because it actually uses my shoulders, rounds the upper traps, and it'll put strain on my lower back when I go to lift. So the fix is actually to come out of that squat a little bit. Take a big breath in, lengthen the spine. Now my weight's in my hips. My hips are doing the drive. I can feel that my pelvis isn't tucking. And then I'm not driving from the knees and from the low back. I'm driving straight from the hips. And in fact, now my shoulders aren't doing the lift. I can simply press up with my legs. I'm pushing the ground away. Just a nice neutral spine, letting the hips do the drive. Now, Isaiah here is only 20 pounds, but if this is something heavier, we'd really want to work on that. But it's sometimes just repetitive bad motions. Even though you're bending your knees, lifting with your back, it's still bad. This is an okay squat to rest in, but we never want to lift from this position because then it overworks the upper part of the body, overstretches that thoracolumbar fascia. We want to keep that thoracolumbar fascia strong and long, driving with the hips, especially going down. We never want to round our back. If the squat is too hard, bending from your knees like that, we can use a hinge. Still pulling the hips back, long spine. So now I don't have as much knee bend, but I'm still not bending my back. Keeping the spine straight, and this is actually a great trainer for the squat. Sometimes we refer this to it as a cane squat. Working up to allowing the knees to bend last. So we're hinging, straight spine, letting those knees come in last. But we can still lift from this position. You might look familiar if you go to the gym. You can deadlift your baby, all in the hips. You should feel this in the front of the body, this anterior oblique kinetic chain of muscles. This tibialis, anterior adductors, iliopsoas is pulling us down. The back of the body is now lifting us, but it's lifting us in a stretched position, which is going to retrain it to work as it should, instead of being so tight, pulling on our sciatic nerves, causing a lot of issues. We can, of course, make this a one-legged squat, which is your reverse lunge. Same thing, I'm also powering through the hip, not the knee. Same thing going down, I'm pulling my hip back, using my hip. Too much on the knee at first, if this is hurting you, we can just simply do a hinge. So we can hinge this baby down to the ground with a kickstand.